right, here with Tina Thompson, new head coach of the University of Virginia team. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, and congratulations are in order.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
yes,
very
indeed.
much.
So we're here at the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. You come in with the 2018 induction class, lots of history. What are your thoughts when you get a call?
Just excitement. Well, I was a little shocked because it happened while I was still coaching at Texas, and we were in the middle of a film session, and the phone rang, and I'm thinking like, what? I can't believe someone has a phone in film. That is like a no-go. That's one of the top rules, of our team, are not bringing telephones into the film room. And Coach Aston was actually talking, and I was just like, whoa. So I continue, to like present my scout. I just keep talking. The kids are kind of looking like, and whoa, what's going on? And then she actually gives me the phone, and she's like, it's for you. And I'm like, it's for me? Are you sure? She goes, yeah. I said, do you want me to leave? Do you want me to take it outside? She goes, no, you can take it here. So I knew, I was kind of a little afraid. I didn't know I have a 13-year-old, so I was like, I hope everything's okay with him. I hope everything's good with my family. So I was relieved by the news that it was the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, and basically letting me know that I went from a finalist to a inductee. So I was really excited about that. I don't think that I had the true emotions I was supposed to have in the moment, because I was just very relieved that it wasn't something bad.
Right, understandable, and glad that it wasn't anything bad, and a very high honor, and there will be still more celebrating to do come fall, but particularly thinking about the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. It's here in Knoxville, Tennessee, of all places. Just the history of this induction and this hallowed ground for the sport, and now going into coaching. What are some of your thoughts about going into the hall with some of the female trailblazers or trailblazers for the women's game?
Well, I think the most important thing is that this is a Hall of Fame dedicated to us, to women, to not just women as in females, but people that have contributed to the women's game in a very high fashion. Amazing, because it is something that's literally just for our game. I'm excited because I'll be housed in a place that encompasses the entire history of women's basketball. It's a game that I love, that I've played most of my life and been able to find great success, but that success has led me here to our founders, to so many very strong and talented women before me. So I'm honored that I'll forever be housed here. It's one of those things that kind of never goes away, and I'm also proud that I can stand and say and reveal that this is something that I've done and I've accomplished, and I could share it with my own girls, not just my own personal history, but the history of all the women before me. So it's educational, it's exciting, it's prideful, it is overwhelming in a sense, but I'm so happy.
And along those lines, just you mentioned the history of the women's game in particular. One thing that I love about this particular induction is that I often learn things that I did not know about a sport that I played growing up. And so either through this induction class or through being here and preparing to be here, are there things about the game of women's basketball that you learned being able to come here to Knoxville for your induction ceremony?
Well, there's actually Shamiqua and Katie and I were talking about it earlier today when we first got to see ourselves for the first time in the Hall of Honor. And every time we come here, we find out something new. There's so much information that it's impossible almost to kind of digest it all in just one visit. So it's a place that you could always come back to and be educated even more so. We watched a video that was amazing, and there were things about the game that I absolutely didn't know. I'm from California, so when I think women's basketball, the first, especially from my childhood, woman that comes to mind is Cheryl Miller, and then maybe Annie Myers, just because they are Californians, and so just being here, not just this time, but every time that I come, I learn just a lot more about who I am, where I've come from, in the sense that, we are our history, and wherever I carry basketball, I'm carrying the kind of blood, sweat, and tears of all the women before me. So I love coming here. Every time I come, I either bring or suggest that I bring that people with me are here, and I ask them whether or not they've been here or not, and suggest that it's a place that they should come, because if you are a lover of women's basketball, then at some point in your life, you should be here. You should come and visit.
Absolutely. And I'm going to get a little more comfortable, because I'm getting all these questions in, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that history, and something quite honestly that I'm learning this time and with my visit is about the Women's Professional Basketball League. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, Annie from California. Well, I talked to Ann Myers Drysdale about the WBL, because I'm just learning. And one of the things that struck me was her experience as being a top draft pick, just as I'm sure you have some experience with that. But her situation going into a league that was very new, and being someone who was drafted first to go into that league and having to make difficult decisions about what it meant at that point in time to be a pioneer. Yeah. I'm just curious, because again, that parallels some of the history that you share with the WNBA. What were your experiences in real time taking that opportunity and making it one that led you to the Hall of Fame?
Well, I guess very similar to Annie, in the sense that you never really know what the future holds, and it's a big choice, because a lot of times women, we've put ourselves in a position that we have options, mm-hmm. and most of the time sport is not your first option.
Right.
You're educated, you plan on having a career, so the opportunity to play professional basketball, especially in America, is one that you necessarily can't take lightly. But also, because of the history for me, there was a history of women's basketball leagues not being successful. So for me, not that I know how big the decision was for Annie, I know that for me it was huge, because I had prepared all my life for a professional career that didn't involve sport. Even though I loved the game, I didn't plan on playing basketball after college unless it was for our national team. So it was huge. I took a lot of time. And it was a little stressful in a sense. And I basically made my decision at the final hour, because I had to be sure it was the best decision. I'm glad that I took my time and I made it an educated choice, and not necessarily just making the choice on my emotions. I don't regret it at all. Never would I have thought that I would spend 17 seasons in the WNBA, which is whoa. And the fact that I almost decided not to participate, so it's, I always say this to my nieces and my nephew and my son as well, that we all have a plan for our life, and God has a plan for our life. And when we decide that we're going to take control and make the decisions that we think are best for us, it usually never works out that way. So just to continue to be faithful, I pray a lot about the decisions that I make in my life, and me going to the WNBA took a lot of prayer, and I just believe that God led me in the right direction, and I had a lot of success. I had a very blessed career, and I'm glad that I listened.
Amen to that. All right, I felt that, and I'm glad. And just going off of that again, making that decision, you did not know that the league would be where it is today. But there are women's leagues that are starting up, and there are other very recent college graduates that are at that position of, this is promising. And this is something that I love, but as you said, I've prepared myself because I have to.
Absolutely.
What advice would you give? You shared a little bit about your faith, but are there other things that you would ask someone in a similar position to consider and think about when having an opportunity to, quite frankly, make history and be a pioneer for women's sports?
Well, I will say that one thing I love about women is that we're more times than not prepared for whatever comes to us. So I think the preparation is key for everything. That no matter what sport you play, no matter what it is you decide to be a professional in, that you want to always have options. So as women, even with you being able to see, women that look like you do something that you love to do in sport, always be educated and prepared, because you never know. I would hate to see our game or just women's sports change or go in the direction that young girls are invested just in sport and not the entire picture of what their lives could be. Because financially, which is the reality, is that we're not in a place where we can rest solely on that. And when you make it, you've totally made it. I mean, I have now had 2 careers, being a professional athlete and now being a professional and being a head coach. But had I not done everything that I was supposed to do as a student athlete, I probably wouldn't have this opportunity. So I say be fully prepared, and when the option or opportunity comes, pros and cons, as I do with everything, and then make the choice that best suits you. But preparation is first and foremost.
And then my final question for you, Coach, as you're thinking about being able to do that for other young athletes who may or may not go on to be professional basketball players, but professionals in something, as the commercial goes,
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you do to prepare yourself to take that task on?
Well, I'm just honest. I mean, the journey that all the girls that will come through my program are looking forward to or are intending to embark on is something that I did. So I would approach them or give them the same advice that was given to me, in that I'm going to coach the whole person, not just the basketball player, not just the student, but the student athlete and the young woman. It is my goal to create an environment that nurtures the whole self, and because that's the experience that I had. I enjoyed my time at USC thoroughly. I was blessed to be around a group of people that contributed to my whole self. And because of that, I felt like when it was my time to make a decision whatever I was going to be professional in, I was prepared to make any decision, not just to go to the WNBA or to go to law school. I had options, and it was because I worked the same way in everything. Like, I gave or poured all of myself into being a student athlete, being an athlete, working on, I guess, my growth, like, as a young adult. But I was surrounded by people that were encouraged and intended to kind of grow my whole person. And that's the same approach I'm going to take with my girls.
Best of luck to you, Coach.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure chatting.
Pleasure.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.